having a special Mom's View day. We're feeling relaxed. My shoes are off. We are talking about weddings. Our weddings, proposals, how you met your man. We are going to take 3 viewers' questions about weddings. You guys ready? I'm really excited.
Yeah. Ready or not.
Good sports, I know. Here we go. Number 1, viewer question. Be Bloody Angel 1.
What's up, Be Bloody?
Yo. We're off to a great start. Asks, can you ladies talk about how you met your husbands/ex-husbands? Who initiated? How was your relationship before kids? This is fun.
Anybody?
Jump on in.
Let's see. Shay first saw me. I know I've told the story before, but I don't know if I've told it here, so bear with me. Shay first saw me in a musical that I was in called Anything Goes, and I was playing the classy nightclub singer. And
he saw that in New York. That would be a great part for you.
Yeah, thank you. But he saw me, and he literally told his friend, I'm going to marry that girl.
He did. He came home that night and was like, I saw this girl, and I'm going to marry her.
Oh, that is so sweet.
And he did. That's the end.
And that's all I have.
And the next day, you were married.
Yeah. And I actually I don't remember meeting him that night. He said that he was there and he saw me and whatever, but I don't remember meeting him that night. And then the next time I remember seeing him was at a dance. It was at the college, like the seminary institute, like the religious building. We had a dance there. And I didn't dance with him, but he kept telling me how he wanted to dance, not there. But like now he'll tell me, back then he saw me and was like, oh, I gotta dance with her, and he kept like losing his nerve to ask me to dance. And it was the last dance, and I remember seeing him like walking across the floor like ready to ask me to dance. And I remember specifically thinking, he has really nice lips.
Oh my God.
He had really nice lips, as you all know. And
that's what I think.
Yeah. And that was like my first impression of him, was just like, oh, guy walking towards me, really nice lips. And then somebody else jumped in and asked me to dance.
Oh.
So I didn't actually like dance with him. But then after the dance, I think it was the same night, he he says that he spoke to me earlier, and I don't remember that either. But it's funny when we talk together, and he's like, no, it was like this. And I'm like, no, it was like this. It's really fun. So you guys should do that with your significant others. But anyway, and I was talking to my friend, and she was saying something like, oh, who are you dating these days? And I was like, about ready to say, oh, nobody. And he like jumped in, like in passing. I don't know where he was, but all of a sudden he was there, and he goes, you could date me.
Oh.
And we
looked
at each other.
Center of attention as always.
Well, it was so awkward because we both looked at each other, and we looked at him, and I was like, do you know him? And she was like, do you know? Like, it was like we had that look like, who is this guy? And so it was like really awkward silence, and then he's like, okay. He walked away.
That is so funny.
And,
how old were you guys?
Let's see, I was like 18 or 19. Yeah, and then the first time we actually went on our date, he had his friend call me.
Oh my gosh, I need to teach my brothers how to have games.
He had Derek call me. Derek Miller call me. And originally I thought Derek was asking me out, and I was scared because my roommate liked Derek. Oh. And so I was like, oh no, I hope he's not asking me out. He's like, so I got this really cool friend, and Shay was like, there's like Derek. It was like the total like junior high thing.
Oh my gosh.
And
I'm
Derek
embarrassed
asked me
officially
out.
right now for them.
Derek asked me out for Shay, and we went on our first date wakeboarding.
What was
Oh,
your
that's
thought? Were
fun.
you like, is this friend really asking me out? You should be like, I don't know, I'll send you a letter between 5th and 6th period and let you know.
Yeah, you say
And there'll be
yes
3
or no.
boxes. Yeah, it'll be like, yes,
You're such a
no,
good
maybe.
sport.
I kind of thought it was cute. So I
You're
was
such
like,
a good sport.
"That's cute. I'll go on a date with you."
That's cute.
She's
All
like,
the eyes are on me like I should take the turn. So I met my ex in college and on MySpace. Let's talk about being embarrassed for something. MySpace. No, my roommate, Erin, she was like one of my really good friends. We cheered together in middle school. You guys remember Erin Lammers. And she lived across the hall from me in Chafee Dewing at Boise State. And she came in, we like would do our homework and then get sidetracked on MySpace. And we'd be up till hours of the night like, did you see how I updated my MySpace? Did you see that song I put on my MySpace? And like, did you see that girl's profile? Did you see what she just posted? Like, back and forth. We like run across the hall like MySpacing all night. And finally one night she came over and she's like, oh my gosh, there's these baseball players. We have to date them. They're so hot. And she knew my ex's roommate, and they were roommates, and Aaron and I obviously like lived across each other. And I was like, oh yeah, they're cute, but they're athletes. Like, I wasn't like wowed by them. They looked like cocky guys that I did not want to date. And I remember getting like a MySpace message. I think Aaron like initiated it or something from my ex saying like, or requested me on MySpace to be his friend. So I was like, whatever. And then like one night I randomly got this text message and was like, I'm going to marry you someday. And I'm like, who is this? How'd you get my number? Like creeped out. It's like, oh, it's blah, blah, blah. Your friend set us up or sent me your MySpace. And so then I was like, oh. So I was like trying to be like all sassy with him, and he had game. So I was like, a typical girl, like, you know. But we ended up like, he was in Pocatello, I was in Boise, and we ended up driving to Twin Falls, and we met at Johnny Carino's, and we went on our like first date, and I was a smitten kitten from then on out. Yeah, so that's how we met. So anytime anyone's like, how'd you meet your ex? I'm like, MySpace, the internet,
The intraweb.
the internet. Yeah, that's how we met.
Miya, how about you?
Where did I meet him? We had friends in common, and we actually moved in right next door to each other. There was a complex that was being built. I was looking for a place to stay, and one of his friends was like, oh, one of my friends is moving into this building, and he was literally my next door neighbor. Like I could like knock, and he could hear it on the other side. And yeah, we just had friends in common, and we just started hanging out. He was my neighbor. We would always together, and I saw him every single day for like the first year. And I was actually trying to test myself to see if I liked him or if I just liked him because it was convenience. You know, convenient because I was with him all the time and he was my neighbor. Like, what if it would have been a different guy if I would have liked him? And I just tested myself, and like I noticed all these little things he would do that I thought were so cute. Like he had a little fish, those spider fish, you know, in the little bowls.
The beta fish? Beta?
I think they're like Chinese fighter fish. They eat other fish. They're like by themselves in this little bowl. And he was cleaning the bowl, and I remember when he poured water in it, the fish was going crazy, and he like put his finger to like turn the waters the opposite direction, so the fish was not going all crazy. And I remember being like, that's so cute.
So funny. So funny the things when you're liking someone that you're like,
and then
Everything they do is cute. And then after you're like, oh, it's so annoying.
And then like he would water the plants, and like if he didn't have just like water from the sink, he would just take his Fiji water. It's like $4, and then just like water the plants like that. Or he would be like eating a popsicle, and the popsicle stick, instead of throwing it away like most people would have, he was like, oh, do you have a tissue? And like put it away back in his pocket until he found a trash. And I was just like, he did these little things that made me like him a lot.
That's cute.
Yeah, that's how we met. He was my neighbor.
Well, I met Casey for the first time at an amusement park in Utah. It's called Lagoon. And I was there for my dad's work party. And Casey was there with his cousin's girlfriend's family because her parents or her dad worked there too. And she came up to me and my friend and said, I have some boys that really want to go on a ride with you. So I was like, okay. And we went on this water ride. We were all on it, and I just remember thinking, he's so weird. Because he was like just doing all these weird things, and I was like, okay, we'll see ya. But while we were on the ride, he was telling us how he was moving to my high school, and it's like, oh, that will be fun. And then after, I was just like, oh, cool. Then I saw him around school. I was like, oh, there's that weird kid.
Casey's gonna love watching this.
He already knows. He already knows.
I love
We
it.
talked about it. And but then I started like thinking that he was really cute. And for some reason, I remember getting jealous when he had girlfriends, which was really weird. And then I don't know how it happened, but our friends were like, you guys should hang out. And I was like, okay. And then I just fell in love with him. So I was 15 when we met, and so I was still like little girl crazy, you know.
Young love.
That's it.
What about you and your Mr. Romeo?
Well, it's funny because this was definitely not a like, I know I'm going to marry this person for either of us. We met at a summer theater. We were working at this, we were both interns at this Shakespeare company, which is this great Shakespeare company in Wisconsin called American Players Theater. And actually Shakespeare festivals are really fun if you're a girl, because Shakespeare has so many parts for men. So it's tons of guys and just a few girls. And I was having a really good time. And I was in school, I was young, I was going to grad school. I wasn't looking at all for a husband at all, And I always joke that I'm actually really lucky that he wasn't the sort of person that I thought he was, because I always really liked really moody, artists who took things very seriously. He's gonna kill me. I thought he was like so artistic, and I mean he is artistic, but he was so like brooding and like depressed and like existential and angsty, and I loved that. Like that, I was all over it. I was like, that's who I love. I just liked those guys, and it's really funny. And I'm actually like, he has those tendencies, but he's actually also an optimistic and responsible human being, which is good. But at the time, I didn't care. I was like, he's hot and brooding, and like, he probably needs me to save him. So like, I will help. Here I am. So we just kind of had we had a summer fling, just to be totally honest. And the whole summer we weren't with anyone. I mean, we were just together, but we were just telling everybody like, oh yeah, I'm kind of seeing this person, but it's not serious. Like, it's not anything serious. You know, we're both gonna go off to different places. And then as the summer went on, we just, I mean, like looking back, and like we actually just fell in love, you know. The first time we ever hung out, we went to Walmart, and we, I know,
Walmart brings
so
people
romantic. Together. And I'd been like, I'm going to Walmart, anyone need to come? And he'd just come, and it was before we were at anything. And when we got to Walmart, he was like, what do you need? I was like, this is this. What do you need? This is this. And he was like, all right, well, let's go off and do this and this, and then we'll come back. And we all both think about that now as like, we kind of were like, wow, we partner well. That was it. We kind of did this team thing together. And at the moment, it didn't seem like anything. But as the summer went on, I think we were both didn't want it to end. And so we ended up driving across the country and moving in together in Seattle.
Wow.
Like completely normal people would do. And my friends and family were like, what are you doing? You don't know anyone in Seattle. You're completely crazy. We don't know this guy. You keep saying he's not serious, like you're not serious. And I kept saying, oh, we're not serious. But the whole time we just had a blast. We moved to Seattle together. It was insane. And we made a whole life there. And it was, just the best. And I guess that was a little bit more than just how I met him, but that's awesome.
That's great. That's a good story.
It all goes together.
It all goes together. I'm going to take another question, which is, this is an easier one. 89764-825 asks, hello, moms. Could you guys talk about how your husbands proposed to you?
Why me?
It was because you're drawing attention that way.
You have expressions that you're like, oh no.
That's funny.
Okay, I'll go first. Whatever. Okay, so we had been planning the wedding before I actually officially will you marry. We had talked about getting rings, but then he moved to go play baseball, and I was ending school, and just life happened, and we didn't ever end up buying a ring or him buying a ring or whatever. And so I remember we went looking, and I remember picking out things, and I think his face was kind of doing one of these, and I was like, oh, this is gonna happen, because I was so young, 19, but. So we had looked at rings, but nothing happened, and then he had to go away for baseball, and then I was like, well, should I move out there? We want to be together. It's a good time. I'm ending school, and so whatever. So I ended up moving out to Tulsa, and then we started planning our wedding, obviously, because Cooper's on the way, and so we're like, should we get married? Should we not get married? Should we wait? It was this back and forth thing. It was like, yeah, let's get married. Let's make this official. And so all summer, I kept expecting maybe at a game he would propose to me and do this big baseball thing, or. I felt like all these moments would come up and then nothing. And so then I was like, I need to stop expecting that. That's kind of probably selfish of me. So it was actually the day before our wedding. And I knew he had gotten the ring, and we had talked about it. I hadn't seen it, and he had officially asked me, but I kind of wish he would have, because it made me, people would ask well, why hasn't he? I'm like, I don't know. So he we were at a park. It was just funny because he's not very spontaneous. And so it was I don't know, he's like, let's go on a drive and look at the trees. I'm like, okay, we have this stuff to plan for the weddings tomorrow,
We're getting married tomorrow.
Yeah, Idaho, the fall is beautiful. The trees are so beautiful, they're changing. So I was like, oh, maybe he's being cute, whatever. I'm like, okay, let's go on a drive. So we go on a drive, and he ended up at the women's jail, and he's like, oh, this isn't where I wanted to go. And so
the women's jail?
Yeah, and so I was just
so romantic.
What is going to happen to me tonight? I just was and so then I kind of started expecting it. He was nervous, you could tell. And we ended up at this park where actually Cooper practices it and plays t-ball at now, so it's kind of bittersweet. But we're he's like, let's go play on the toys. And I'm like, okay. I just knew it was going to happen. I didn't know how. And he ended up he was going to go down the slide, and he was like, hey, will you catch my keys? I don't want to rip my new jeans I just bought. And so he slid down the keys, and I caught them, and then he slid down his cell phone. He's like, oh yeah, here's something else. Will you catch that? And me not knowing, I was like, okay. And he slid down the ring box, and then he slid down, and I opened it, and of course I said yes. Our wedding was the next day.
You're like, I don't think so.
No. And like, not trying to be a brat. He's like, you didn't like cry or act surprised. I'm like, well, oh my hell, you're like, our wedding is tomorrow. Like, what do you expect me to say? Like, oh, I can't believe this is happening. You better, so it was like a fun memory now that we look back. He's like, yeah, I probably should have done it earlier. I'm like, you think? Like, but now, like, little be told, I am where I'm at with that. So, but just funny.
It's a funny story.
That's a really great story, actually.
I'm sorry I just said HE double hockey stick. It's a place, not a swear word. Like heaven, right? Heaven and hell. Oh my heaven, oh my hell. Your turn.
I'm just loving you right now. Can I just keep going?
I'm loving it too.
I'm trying to be so positive.
You're doing a great job.
I know. I'm sure. I can imagine this is not all the easiest subject matter for me and Carlie to talk about. And thanks for going along for the ride. And
No problem.
All right, on a slightly different note. Okay, so Shay proposed. We had already actually gone ring shopping because we had decided that we wanted to get married. It wasn't ever really like, let's get married, let's do it. It was like, we went ring shopping and it was kind of like, oh, look at these rings. Like, what do you think, And then, like, I found the one that I loved and I was just like, oh my gosh, I love that one. And he was like, really? And I'm like, yeah, that's so pretty. It's so sparkly, Anyway, so we left that day and I didn't know that, but he actually bought the ring that day. He took me home and went back and bought it. And I think it was a couple weeks later, maybe a week later. We were not engaged for very long, so it wasn't very long later. And I was on a musical theater dance company at our college, and we had practice on Thursday night, and he told my coach to tell me Tuesday night that we didn't have practice Thursday night. So, like, everybody was in on it except for me. So that day at practice, she's like, oh, and just so you all know, we're not having practice Thursday night. But little did I know, he purposely made me late to that practice so she would tell everybody. Anyways, so it was like this whole thing that he had, like, planned. And so Thursday night came, and he's like, oh my gosh, Derek really needs help moving. And he lived in Salt Lake, which was like 2 hours from us. He's like, Derek really needs help moving tonight. You want to come with me? And I'm like, how rude of him. He's asking you to drive that far in one night, like, to help him move? That's rude. But I'm like, okay, well, whatever. I do have a lot of homework to do. And he's like, just come with me. Like, he's, like, panicking, like, she's not going to come.
you're like, what's wrong? What? Why do you care so much?
I know, right? But finally I was like, sure, I'll go with you, And so I went with him. And as we're driving, he tells me, he's like, oh, my gosh, Derek just called me. He's not at his house yet. We can't go over there yet.
Were you close to Utah?
Yeah, we had just pulled into Salt Lake, and he's like, oh, he's not at his house yet. He's still at work. So let's just go down to Temple Square. And I'm in my mind, I'm like, how rude.
Derek, you're so sure.
Like, Derek is being so rude. Seriously. Seriously.
And you guys are like the comedy duo over there.
So funny. Anyways, I just couldn't believe how rude he was being. So like, sure, let's go to Temple Square. And Temple Square is where, like, in our religion, it's kind of like a central area. And it's really beautiful. And so we walked around the temple, and then there's this visitor center where you can go in, and there's a big, huge statue of Jesus, of the Christus. And so we went into that building, and we were going to go up to the thing, and he's like, oh, I'm going to run to the bathroom real fast. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went to the bathroom, too, because girls always have to pee. And but I didn't know his friends had met him in the bathroom and gotten these flowers, and, like, they had this all planned out, and I was just like, I'm totally oblivious to all this stuff. He's always really good at surprising me. So we walk up to the Christus room, and he was walking really slow. I was like, what is he doing?
He's like, come on, honey, you can do it.
I just thought, like, oh, he just wants to, like, feel the mood of the quiet, reverent room, So we get up there, and we're sitting on the bench, and there's, the statue of Jesus, and there's these flowers sitting at Jesus' feet, like in a vase. Or I can't remember if they were in a vase or not, but they were sitting there, and he goes, go take one of those flowers and hold it, and I'll take a picture of you. And I go, no. Somebody put those there, like, they're probably, like, respecting Jesus or whatever. I didn't want to go take their flowers. So he's like, just go hold the flower and take a picture. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. So he's like, okay, I will. So he went up there, and he took the flower, and I took the picture of him, which I still have that picture. And then he's like, come here. And so I went, and he went to give me the rose. And he gave me the rose, and, like, the ring was on the end of the rose, and it slid down into my hand.
Cute.
And I was like, I looked at it, and, like, he picked it up, and then he knelt down, and then I was like, Oh!
No,
I
me,
get it
I would
now.
have like dropped the ring and like kicked it somehow and like rolling. Good catch.
I know, right? I was lucky that didn't happen, but anyways, then he proposed to me, and it was amazing, and I cried, and the rest of the night was awesome, and his friend actually filmed it, and we've been clamoring to try to find that footage. We still haven't.
Oh my
so.
gosh.
But anyways.
How long
that's
after
the
did you
story.
get married?
A month and 3 weeks.
Wow, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Get it done, dog.
Yeah.
Found it.
We did.
Nice. Go Shay. That's an impressive story.
That's cute.
Better than asking you out first.
Don't you have like a weren't you guys on a chairlift or something? I mean, like kind of these Butler brothers. They bring out the big guns when it comes time for.
It's true. Actually, it was Valentine's Day.
That's right.
And we had went ring shopping before, earlier like in November, and I was thinking maybe we'd get engaged around December, around Christmas. And then we had this talk where we were like, we're too young, let's wait, let's not get married, let's spend a little bit more time. And so I really wasn't thinking because I'm like, I know it will be a while. Anyways, it was Valentine's Day, and he came and picked me up, and he gave me a red rose and said, like, this is for how much I love you. And then we went and got in the car, and he gave me another red rose, like, this is for all the time that we spent together. Like, kept giving me red roses throughout the night for different reasons. We went to dinner, and after dinner, he had his snowboarding goggles, and he shoved socks in them and made me put them on. And I think I have pictures of me just like with these goggles on.
So cute. I can just see you.
And so I had them on, and I was, before we were talking about going ice skating a couple weeks before, how I'd wanted to go. It had been so long, and I was like, maybe he's taking me ice skating. And so we drove somewhere, and then he got out of the car, and he was like, okay, I'll be right back. And he took forever. So I was just sitting there thinking,
Did you peek?
no.
You're so good.
I know. I didn't peek.
Like,
I didn't peek. I was really good because I wanted to. And then I was like, no, I won't. And then he came and got me, and we were walking around, and we were on snow. He was like, okay, sit down. So I sat down, and all of a sudden we started going up, and we were on a ski lift. And he gave me a white rose, and he said, do you know what this rose is for? I said, what? He said, for eternity. And then he opened up the box and said, will you marry me?
oh my
And then,
gosh.
of course, like, I deal with everything like giggling, so I was like, and I hugged him, and he was like, you didn't answer. I was like, oh yeah.
Totally.
Cry at all?
No,
like
I mean, that's seriously, like, especially then, because I was young, I just
Giggle.
laugh.
Happy and just like,
Yeah, I was like,
That's so cute.
so then I remember he put it on, and it was a little bit big, and I was like up in the ski lift, so I was holding my hand like this, and like, can you imagine if that fell off? So then we rode it back down, and
that's cute.
yeah, it was really cute.
That is adorable.
It was really cute. What about?
Well, like Carlie, it wasn't like an official proposal. It actually was right after 9/11, and I think it just, when you watched what happened, I think it brought a lot of people closer together.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God, if that happened to you, what would I do without you? And it was literally a spur of the moment thing where we were like, let's just get married. And we were like, let's just do it. We were like crazy in love. It was just like this decision we made. And at the time we were living at his parents because our apartment wasn't ready, so we were like in between two places. And so we went upstairs, and he was like, Mom, Dad, we're getting married. It was literally like that.
Wow.
And they were super excited. And they knew, like, just kind of like you, like both of you, I think he said that. He knew, same thing. He met me and he told his mom, I met the woman I'm going to marry. So it was a similar thing. But yeah, so that's how it was. And then I didn't have like an official ring right away, but the ring that I had was his great grandmother's ring. It was like 88 years old.
Wow.
It was like an antique, and then I got it sized. And now I saved it for Mila, so for when.
That's so sweet.
Yes.
That's nice of you.
Sarah, let's hear your story.
Okay. Well, we first had, as soon as we moved to Seattle, we were, I think things were just pretty certain that we were going to be together. We talked about it. I mean, we just were planning the future together in a very natural way. It felt very free. And then he got into grad school in New York, and I was doing an acting job in Carmel in California. And it was really scary because we were going to move together, but it was the first major transition, and we were kind of freaked out. And so at that time, I'm sorry, this is going to be long-winded, but at that time he just said something like, hey, do you want to get married someday? And I was like, yeah. And we were in Santa Cruz, and we just picked out little cheap rings, and we just both wore them as like little promise rings. And I was really liked it because he went off to grad school and I was like afraid of the other women, and he had this ring on. Even though we weren't married, he wore it like an engagement ring. But that wasn't official, like we were officially engaged, and I think he always knew that like he still had to do like an official engagement at some point. And so we planned a trip back to Wisconsin where his parents are and where that theater is where we'd met, and we'd actually planned with his parents to go back to the theater and to see a show because it's a great place and we always go there. And he planned this thing out with his parents where we had been at this museum, and then we went to a restaurant, and then his dad was like, "Oh, I left my credit card at the museum." Ben was like, "Oh, we'll go pick it up for you." And I almost spoiled it because of who I am. I'm like, "Well, maybe we should call the museum first and make sure that they have the credit card there." They're like, "No, think they've got it. Totally think they've got it." And so, but I was completely clueless. We were in the middle of grad school. He was in New York, and I was actually spending most of my time in Providence because we were both in school at the same time. So I kind of accepted it was going to be a little while till we got married too, and I wasn't expecting it. But he drove us, and there was a bridge where we had spent a lot of time when we had been there together when we first met. And he was like, "Oh, you want to just go check that out up there?" And I was like, "Sure." And I'm chattering away about like stupid things and blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden I looked at him, he was all shaky and like white. And I was like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And I got really scared. And then he like had a little thing, like he knelt down and proposed. And I totally bawled, like totally cried and was so shocked and excited. And this man and his son passed us, and Ben had to be like, I proposed. I didn't like abuse her. So I was like, "Oh my God." And then we went back, and his parents were really excited. And it was fun because my mom I love her to pieces, but she is not romantic or sentimental about weddings one bit. And she would not have been like, "Oh my gosh," but his parents were just over the moon. So they were the perfect people. And we saw a play at the place we'd met. So it was just a very nice night.
Oh, that's so cool.
I love the engagement stories where it's like, it brings back like important things and like, you know, Shay and religion and Casey, and so he was like a huge snowboarder and like places you guys.
Yeah.
Like you see those big engagements where it's like in the fireworks that are like at a Dodgers game on the big jumbotron or whatever, but I love the stories where it's like very particular to your relationship and
Right.
sweet.
Casey said that ever since he was little and since we had been dating that he wanted to ask his future wife to marry him on a ski lift. So
That's cute.
it is very cute.
I think because we've been talking so much about how we met our men and how they asked us if we would be the women in their lives forever, that we will take a break and come back next week. Thank you guys for watching. Tune in next week. We really will get to the weddings.
Even more juicy details.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.